Good morning or good evening. Hi everyone. Anna, Monica, Francesca. Now, Francesca, I'm going to invite you on, okay? Hello.
I made it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I can't believe this is the first time we're talking together.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let me.
Can you see
What?
me okay?
Hmm?
Can you see okay? Everything all right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just watching if I look good. Oh, no. Well,
Uh,
I'm not sure. Yes, I can do that without eyeglasses.
I need to leave these on because I can't read any comments.
Oh,
Ah.
it's true. I cannot read. Hello, Anna.
Um, First of all, Francesca, thank you so much for doing this.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's the
Uh,
first chat, like Instagram chat I'm doing.
this is awesome, and I'm really happy that you decided to do it from your lab because all I'm looking at is that shelf behind you, and of course you.
I we'll have a tour behind me as soon
Uh,
as we finish the introductory things.
Beautiful.
Or we can
Now,
just start and so how are you? Did you just wake up, by the way?
do I look
Hmm.
like I just woke up?
No, you look perfect. Really, like I would like to have your face like at this time in the evening. Here it's already late and I'm tired. I haven't been sleeping last night, so I'm pretty.
Oh, okay. Well, I promise I won't keep you up too long.
No. It's I have a child downstairs, so I have to stay awake anyhow. So better to
Okay.
stay here. She stays
All
with
right.
her dad. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, Francesca, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a few questions because I guess there's a lot of people on here tonight or this morning who love your perfume.
Thank
Obviously,
you.
me being one. So I want to find out. I guess I'm really curious more about how you got started. But my first question to you, and this only came to me because I was on your website and I was reading a bit about your background, and I remember that you've got your academic background is art history, right?
Yeah, correct.
So
Correct.
my first question to you is, what's your favorite piece of art?
Oh, wow, there are
And
many.
I'll narrow it down to paintings only, okay?
Well, narrowing down to painting. Well, let's say recently I'm not so much into painting anymore.
Yeah.
But anyhow, well, I have several piece of art that I like. Well, we can say like maybe more the artist than, and I'm more into modern art. So I like a lot Matisse, and
Yeah.
it's difficult to mention just one picture, but let's say the period of the avant-garde, so the first 10 years of the 20th century. And I like also the abstract expressionists, so Pollock, Rothko, I like a lot. Like I would say like Matisse and if you like, just ask me, pick two of your best painters, I would say Matisse and Rothko, but I'm just saying it now. Maybe in 5 minutes I will change my mind. I don't know.
Good choices. Good choices. Because it just made me curious because, and I wondered that once you got into perfume, into making perfume, whether any of that had any kind of influence on the way you make perfume.
um, Maybe not them. Maybe more. Uh, Maybe more the method of studying has been important on the way I do perfumes, or on the way I study perfume, because when I was studying in Florence, history of art at the University of Florence is a very good how can I say, is a very good topic, and and we used to study like in order to become a connoisseur, to become someone who could recognize the artist of a painting, which you might have found somewhere, no? So you have to study the style of a painter, and you can say this is a Matisse, or this is a Botticelli, or this is a Pinturicchio, without knowing who did the painting. And the process of acquiring this kind of information is a very difficult one, because normally when you study anything, any subject, you are used to study concept. So you study some words, you try to memorize, to understand them, but it's always about the logic, it's about concept. Whereas this kind of knowledge is about visual stuff, which you have to find your way to identify that kind of style in your own words, in your own ideas. And this is a similar thing that you have to do while you study the raw materials, because they are not concept, they are smell, and as we all know, the vocabulary to describe smell is very limited. So you have to find your own personal way to distinguish one thing from another. And I have to say that probably the skills that I had acquired in history of art, whereas different, were helpful, because I was already ready to open up my mind to the identification of things which are difficult to define by words. I don't know if this makes sense.
It does make sense, because I was just thinking as you were talking about how you learn to identify an artist's work just by looking. I definitely think, and probably a few people on here would agree, that having smelled most of pretty much all your line, you definitely have some identifiable things about all your perfumes that are Francesca Bianchi. Like there's definitely, to me, there's definitely a DNA that runs through most of the line. Maybe when I smelled the Etruscan water, like that to me seemed the most different one from what you'd done previously. But I don't know. Do you agree? Like, I mean, you would know. Do you use some kind of?
I completely ignore this, and every time someone says, "Oh, you can tell that's your signature there," I say, "Well, if you say so." I mean, for me, it's nothing. I mean, I can understand that this happens, because I have my favorite notes. I have not just the favorite notes, but I have my favorite combination of notes. But it's not that I intentionally bring them every time in perfumes. So, for instance, I have two new things here, and and today I had my, let's say, smelling session with friends of mine, Chester and Maxime. They live in Amsterdam, and I'm very lucky to have them as a friend, because they are, as you are. Well, if you were living here, you would be invited to this smelling session for sure. So we smell stuff like vintage stuff, or designer stuff, niche stuff, and then we smell also. Chester is also getting to be a perfumer, so we have also we are smelling also the experiment he's doing, and I submit them my my work in process. So today I let them smell some new stuff that I'm preparing for Pitti in September. And so they both said that, so you can tell there's your signature in it. Whereas in maybe not in both, but in one, I thought it was so different from the things I'm used to do. and nonetheless, they say that you can find your signature. So I don't know. I can tell you it's not something that I do intentionally, but it's true that I have, you know, I have my favorite notes recurring.
Yeah, well, I kind of like that happens more unconsciously than consciously, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, to me, there's a definite style. But speaking of style, when you started out, because you're obviously also a fragrance enthusiast, so you would have been a fan of particular perfumes, even in the houses. Like, did you have any actual perfume influence when you started out?
It's difficult to say because I always see this difference, and for instance, I used to paint and draw stuff, nothing that I would ever show here, but what I like to do is very different from what I like in others. It's like, for instance, I'm more into realistic kind of painting for myself, but if I had the money to buy you know, a masterpiece of someone, I would buy abstract for sure.
Yeah.
And the same goes with my perfume. I'm recently into not really vintage, but like old style masterpieces. Some months ago, I was wearing Miss Dior every day, like old formulation, or I like Laba. Just to mention a few that I'm wearing now. I have a large collection. I'm ashamed of how many perfumes I have. And but anyhow, I'm wearing perfumes that I would never even think of doing or even following, because I'm not interested in doing them. Maybe they already exist, so there's no need for me to do something similar. But it's strange. I cannot explain this, how I'm attracted to things that are not the things that I like to do. When I sit here at my table, it's like I like to do well, I could say like the Middle Eastern kind of perfume making can have an influence on me, but it's not a very, like I can pick up like a perfume house. Okay, I like Amouage, yeah, but it's not that there's a direct influence of any of the fragrance on mine. I like the thickness of perfume, like you know, like an attar, although I'm not doing attars. But also today I was talking about these friends of mine came at my place and I let them smell. I have the new concentrate now, and I have put them in different dilution. So one, but like very different, but very slightly. Like one was 23%, one was 25%. So a very tiny difference, but it can give a different result in the development of the fragrance. The dry down ends up pretty much the same, but the opening is very different. And in the end, I get to stick to the 25%, which is the concentration on which I have developed the perfume. So every time I do version 1 until version 100, I put it at 25%, which is my favorite concentration, where things are, maybe you don't really smell the top notes opening a lot, but I like the thickness, I like the density, and that's my thing now. Maybe next year I will be into, I don't know, eau de toilette 12% flowery. No, it's not possible.
I really love. I mean, I love that concentration. It's a good word you use, the thickness. Even though you describe them as thick, I never find them overbearing to wear. You know, so there's always a bit of space when they develop. I mean, on my skin, obviously, they might not be the same for everyone.
The less alcohol. The thing is that the higher the concentration, the less alcohol. Okay, so higher concentration, it's more dense, but it's more close to the skin in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the more alcohol you have, the more diffusivity you have. So it's not that the more concentrated, the more overwhelming it is. So for me, it's like I remember when I was at a trade fair with Sultan Pasha. I don't know if you know him,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he uses like oil-based stuff, and like just put a drop of it, and like we smell it, and we smell it. It's not really what I want to do. I prefer the alcohol base, but still it's that kind of smell close to the skin, and smell the thickness of it. And the development is different because top notes are like a bit more overwhelmed by the base notes in a way. So the moment you make a higher dilution, so like from 25 you go to 20, you can have like the top notes flourishing more, like, or the citrusy that you have in the top notes, and also the heart, you perceive them a little bit more. So it's a pleasant sensation, and I like it, and I consider that. But then I get back to my 25 and I say, oh, I like it better. Yeah.
Well, I don't think anyone would complain with the concentration you're doing them at now. So have you had a situation now since you started where you have not been some of the raw materials you started making your perfumes with are not available anymore, or are they all still available?
So far, no. And not because I am selecting raw materials according to availability, just by, yeah, it's just like that. They are available. So yeah.
I get, so because where I'm leading, I guess, is from your point of view. If you suddenly can't source a particular raw material that you've been using for one of your perfumes, and there's nothing quite the same, would you be more inclined to try and reformulate something, or just discontinue it because it's not the same thing?
Speaking about from a business point of view, of course, I would try to reformulate.
Yeah.
Then I will see if I like the result or not.
Yeah.
So, of course, I would, of course, because sometimes reformulate. It depends on the material, how much that material can have impact. And I have seen, like, I recently in several, like in 2 perfumes that I have been working on, I had to slightly reformulate, not the version that is in the commerce, like the beta version that I was working. I wanted to put it in the market. Then at the last moment, I saw that I was not IFRA compliant.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so thanks to the help of my my supplier of natural raw materials, he helps me with the calculation of IFRA. Thanks God, because it's a headache. And they also help me with like a small replacement because they have in-house perfumers and so. And to be honest, I was like out of IFRA of like 10%, so like completely unusable, and with a very, very tiny changes and the replacement, I could stick to IFRA. So, and this happened twice, and I had like friends smelling, because I like to make these tricks, like smell this and smell that, and no one would say, oh, this is better than the other. Maybe you, in one case, you would perceive a small difference, but not that one is better than the other. It's just slightly different. And in other case, you can't smell the difference. So this being said, this is about IFRA, but also about any other occasion of necessity of reformulation. I would, of course, try. I mean, if it's if a bestseller, like if it's a perfume that I'm not selling, I say, you know what? Very sorry, but if it's a perfume that people are requiring, of course I will try to reformulate, and then I will evaluate if I'm pleased with the result, and if I'm not pleased, maybe I will discontinue. If the result is maybe different, I will tell guys I have reformulated. I mean, I will be very transparent, as I have been right now in this moment. There's no, there's no shame in reformulation. Sometimes
No.
you have to reformulate, especially for the IFRA thing. And about, yeah, sorry.
Sorry. No, I was going to say, I guess it's great because it's refreshing that, I mean, I think more indie perfumers would be more likely to be more transparent about reformulating and stuff like that. And I guess ultimately it's going to be the people buying the perfume who are going to make the decision if they're happy with what it smells like or not. So I've got no issue with reformulation.
Yeah, I mean, they are not like masterpieces of art. They change during the times. I mean, because they get older and we still admire them. Why wouldn't I reformulate one perfume of mine? I mean, it's not like a piece of art that I have to, it's like why I'm giving so much importance to something where, it's like masterpieces of literature have been edited by the very same authors. So you have several versions of them, and nobody has ever criticized for that. So why couldn't we reformulate? Like if IFRA says that something is forbidden or like is limited, yeah, we hate all IFRA, la la la, etc. But I have to put this perfume in the market, and if someone hurt, I am responsible for that. I don't want to have any problems. I don't want anybody to get hurt. So if IFRA says, and every rule is unjust as any other rule in the world, justice is unjust because the rules are rules for everyone, and they should be adapted. We know the story. So IFRA rules are unjust. Okay, let's deal with that. I stick to IFRA because I want to sleep in the night and I don't want anyone to get hurt. That's
a
it.
Good enough reason.
Yeah.
Now, I am curious, and you can share how much you want. When you go into your lab and you want to start working on something new, do you have a process? Like, and I guess I'm curious about how many different new things you're working on at any given time.
Let's see if I have. Here I have like a bunch of things. They are not all the new stuff I'm working on, but I have several. Like here, let's see. Let's take in advantage that I'm moving my ass. So so this is like the organum, so to say. So here it's where all the raw materials are. Then I can also show you more closely how it works. But to finish I have a lot of open stuff, and many of them will stay there because my inspiration on them will be over, and like love stories, So then other stuff, they attract me the most, and they are still alive in myself, and I will continue working on them. Other stuff are like difficult. I have a tuberose thing that I'm so undecided and so stressed out because I like tuberose, but it stressed me out a lot to work on it. And so, different thing, like people, you have friends with whom you are comfortable, other that you like, but they stress you, and la la la. And others you don't want to see anymore.
I get that.
So get in here. So no, and it's not an intelligent thing. Let's do it like this. Okay, so here you have, I keep most of my natural stuff here, and here it's more about the synthetic, but then you have other natural. It's a bit mixed. At the beginning I was like natural and synthetic, then at a certain point I understood it didn't make sense, so I kind of have mixed them in a way that only I can understand. makes sense also only to me. And normally what things are organized in a way that you have here you have these brown bottles. They are the diluted version. So most of them, they are 10%. Some of them, they can be 5%, 1%, 0.1%, according to how powerful is the raw material. Some are 50% because maybe they are not powerful at all. So they have I put them at different dilution, and on the back, if I don't know if you see on the back, you have the pure materials. So this is how I organize my stuff, and yeah, so far so good. And this is let's see, my desk. It's a bit okay, so that's my desk, and here I have other tables where that I used to make shippings, and so like over there you have boxes, and here you have some perfumes, but now I am topping up my stock, so I have received like 15,000 perfumes. They are downstairs, and I hope someone will help me to bring them here. And yeah, so well, and this is it.
So Francesca, do you run everything from there? Like when you're packed, do you do all your labeling, everything yourself, and boxing and
no. The first year, let's get back to seated. The first year I did two batches. The first two batches I was doing everything here. So I was mixing the concentrate and putting in alcohol, let it age, and then filter and filling boxes, the labeling, etc., and up to shrink wrapping, cellophaning. And after 1 year, it was not a decision because I wanted to get big or so. It was just that I was paying a babysitter to stay with my baby, and while I was doing this job. And I said, this doesn't make sense. I prefer to stay with my baby, and somebody is doing the packaging for me. Because packaging is not essential. It's not that there's an added value of the perfumer if I do everything by hand. It's nice to say, but let's be honest, it's not that there's no added value in that.
No.
So I decided to outsource this part of the job because I prefer to pay someone to do this and stay with Ginevra a little bit more. And so basically I have outsourced the production since 2017, so almost a year. And so basically what I do is the creation. So all my time is devoted to creation, and I'm very happy about that. Of course, I have less money, but I have more time for the creation. So that's better for me. And creation and packing. So prepare when I receive the perfumes in cellophane, they will be put over there. And and when I receive orders, I prepare the orders here and send them out and write to it. So I like to do the boxing my own.
I think a lot of people like that little personal touch as well when they get a bottle with a note.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I think I really like it. Now I'm very undecided because David, my boyfriend, wants to book a holiday, like 3 weeks holiday, and oh my God, 3 weeks is a lot of time. How can I stay out of my laboratory for 3 weeks? Who's gonna do the boxes? And so I'm thinking to train the daughter of my neighbor to do the boxing, because it's like for me it's, but I have to get detached from that, someone is
there you go. Someone was complaining they couldn't see your face.
Because maybe let's see.
There you go.
You see my face now?
So I noticed earlier you said you you were working on a couple of things maybe for Pity. Like, are you actually hoping to launch something there?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So these
Can you tell us much?
I promise not to leak any information about that. So let's see, because and then I will start to talk. And so these two things, I have the concentrate now from the compound house. So this means that the beta version, like the sample from the compound house that I approved before launching the real production. So ordering the several kilos of concentrate. I like it, and by end of the week I will confirm the quantities, so they will start producing the concentrate, and then they will send it to the supplier that does the filtering and the filling. This means that they will be ready for mid-October, but in PT I will have enough samples and stuff to bring at the fair. And so one is, let's say, musky.
Oh, okay.
And the other is based on vetiver. Very, very strong. Is devoted to, well, it's a long story. I have to find a way to tell this story in a way that everybody understands, because it's a very Florentine story about a knight, like a warrior, and black warrior. So, well, that's all.
Okay, I'm so intrigued. I'm so intrigued. How often do you wear your perfumes? Like, are you constantly wearing them just to?
I feel a bit ashamed to wear my perfumes. They are a little bit too. No, I'm joking. How often? I cannot wear perfumes in general every day, because the other day I insisted, and I sprayed myself in Habanita, and I was mad at me because I couldn't work, because then you smell the perfume instead of your things. And sorry, okay. So what I was saying, so in general I cannot wear perfumes every day. And the day I decide to wear perfumes is like days that I know that I'm completely engaged in boxing or doing other stuff, bookkeeping, you know, these kind of things that I hate to do. So most times I don't wear my perfumes, because I really like to wear other, like, masterpieces, like other people's perfume. I enjoy wearing other people's perfumes also, because I smell my perfumes almost every day, because for different reasons. So, but when I go out, very, very rarely, because I really don't have a social life. I mean, it's like very rarely I go out, and I like to wear my perfumes. And which one would you like to wear? The Lover's Tale, Under My Skin. Recently, I like to wear my new musky one, and the Sex and the Cineroli.